Underneath that is going to be Citizen, and it says Terra Federation, which is, I think, the most interesting piece of information almost in this entire... Oh, hey y'all. How's it going? Fatty here, and thanks for joining me on day 11 of Artemis. And today, bro, my mind is blown. I'm not talking about the Ahsoka series that got announced. I'm not talking about even the Bad Batch that they first really showed clips of. Not even talking about the Marvel side of it with the first look at Loki or the first look at Miss Marvel, which is blown my mind as well. I'm not even talking about the Arc animated series with Gerald Butler in it, as well as Russell Crowe and Vin Diesel. But I am talking about Arc 2. And I was watching this trailer yesterday and I broke it down. I've watched this so many times and I have found 15 great missable details in this that you're definitely not going to want to miss. And let's not waste any more of your time and let's just jump right into the breakdown.
It's time to go.
On this first freeze frame, there are really two things I wanted to point out. First off are these semi-tattoos that are on these people that are this blue color. When I first saw this, it was really reminiscent of everything like tech or anything dealing with HLNA or any of the main Arc type of stuff. I didn't really think at first when I saw this trailer that it was going to be Arc, just for the sheer fact that it had Vin Diesel in it, and I didn't think that was going to be possible. The other second thing I really want to talk about is the egg that this lady is holding. Now, I really boiled this down to two candidates. The first one being, if it's a small egg, it's going to be a Hesperornis egg, which is like a small bird, based on the color and the coloration of the spots. The second one I really considered in the medium category that kind of fits it would also be the Ichthyornis egg. Also maybe the Pelagornis. Those spots are more yellow and these spots are a little bit darker. But other than that, nothing really fits it. So it's really one of those three birds that this lady's holding. The third noticeable detail I really noticed on my rewatches of this are these two guys. The first few times I watched this, I really thought they were carrying a dinosaur. I thought they were carrying, at first it kind of looked like a Daedon, possibly a Phomonia that they were carrying. But the more I watched it, it's just they're carrying gear. They're just carrying the majority of this tribe or small group stuff, which really makes me think they're nomadic. I really kind of noticed this trend in this trailer that everything is very primitive compared to everything else in Arc. You won't see very metal things with metal or anything like that or any structures. I found that really interesting, just something to keep an eye on. For the fourth missable detail, I'm going to throw it out to you guys before all this action and the best part of the trailer, this really awesome fight begins, is that Vin Diesel's character is the only one that carries any kind of metal tool. So you're going to see these other creatures who at first I thought were kind of corrupted humans, like you saw corrupted dinosaurs on Extinction, but I'm not really so sure. We'll kind of talk about that later when we get to that detail. But on this one he's the only one that you will see that has anything metal, and it's a spear. Now it's not like a metal pike like you are used to in Arc 1 generation. This is more like a primitive spear like you would make, on the beach, but instead of having flint or looking like anything like the other players or the other, humanoids have in this scene, his is metal. So it's just really interesting. You won't see anything else that's not Arc related, as in the Arcs, that is metal. So I just want to throw that one out before this big fight scene and just pay attention to their weapons and notice how, like I said, he's the only one that's going to carry metal. So this is an editing bonus I just noticed when I was kind of going through and editing this up, is that this skull is the only one that I can't really identify of all the Jefferson starships. I've been watching too much Supernatural, so that's what I'm going to call them, since I don't have a clever name for him yet.
What do you call these?
Well, congrats. You discovered it. You get to name it.
Jefferson starships.
But all of these ones all wearing a helmet or a mask or skull, whatever. They're either so small bits of a skull that you can't really identify. It's not a full skull, or it's something super easy to identify, like a saber tooth. But this guy is the most different one. I can't really identify it. The only thing that we already have in Arc that is similar is going to be the Ovis. Granted, the horns are kind of reversed. The front horns are really small on the Ovis, and the back ones are the big ones. but it actually looks quite a bit like a Novus. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys think this guy's wearing a Novus helmet or not. Another thing I was trying to do while watching this trailer is really identify what these things are. Like, my first instinct is going to be a corrupted human, sort of like you see corrupted dinos in Extinction and some of those things, like in the Aberrant Zones. The thing that makes me kind of lean towards this is another missable detail, which is going to be number 5 on this list, is that on his arm, these armor are either one of two things in my mind. The very first one, which it looks most likely like, is going to be the dragon scale armor skin that you already have in the first generation of Ark. You get it from defeating a couple different things in the game, but basically it makes your arms look like it has the dragon scales on it. It looks very reminiscent of that. On the other end of the spectrum, it's going to be like a thorny dragon kind of hide type looking thing is the only other thing that I can really connect it to. So this kind of leads to my corrupted human, right? If they're wearing a little bit of armor, which you can see this like bone armor, and they're wearing like skins like the players have, it kind of leads towards that, but we'll kind of get into a later detail that makes me question this a little. Now, the sixth missable detail that leads me again to this like corrupted human type theory for these guys is the feathers that are on the back of him. Now, you could kind of argue that maybe it was like a colorful bird like an Argentavis or something like that that kind of gave them. But with the streaking and the patterns and stuff, they really look like two options to me. Either a Featherlight or a Rock Drake. Either way, those are kind of stuff that's founded in like the aberration zones, right? The radioactive areas. Anything that's, again, that kind of more along those lines of corrupted. I know the aberration zone isn't quite like the corrupted of Extinction, but they're kind of, you know, cousins in the same little arc pot, right? So just another thing that I think kind of leads to that theory. Now, here's where the trailer really throws a curveball. If you were watching this live and you have a really keen eye, you're going to notice that these guys jumping out of the trees for this detail number 7 are going to be Microraptors. Now, this is actually the first and one of the few only things that we see that are 100% in Ark Generation 1 and Ark 2. I found that really to be interesting that this is going to be like the one that they show. I like how they treat them more like birds and like the ground creatures that they kind of are in the actual game. But I just found that to be really interesting that they choose to do this, especially after the next reveal in this trailer. The eighth detail is just the Rex in general. Now, this is obviously a T-Rex, but it's different than any Rex that we've seen in Ark thus far. It also is really more reminiscent of a realistic Ark. Now, that's another theme that I kind of said throughout this trailer, is this feels a little bit more primal and a little bit more on the realistic end at the start of it as well. You get that one little creature at the very start, but everything else feels a lot more grounded and real, I guess, except for the mud creatures. But like, and generally, the world, the clothing, the tools, everything they have, the Rex is more realistic too. So that's why I think the Microraptors right before this is kind of an interesting way to kind of connect those two things. Now, this detail isn't as much as trying to figure out what the game's about or anything crazy like that. This one is just a fun detail I missed in the first trailer and I just thought was really badass, so I wanted to share with you. So right where I freeze it, this lady just kind of is like finishing off this Jefferson starship. She takes a spear and like jams it into his leg in the ground so he's pinned, and just how the Rex reacts with him is just hilarious. So I just hope you guys enjoyed this. I didn't notice it in the trailer until I really started breaking it down.
So you can see that guy throw a metal spear on that T-Rex.
Now, this detail is the one that really makes me kind of question my like corrupted human one, and this is also just a shout out to these animators. They did an amazing job. Is the fear that they convey in this creature, Jefferson Starship-esque eyes, is amazing. Like, he looks legitimately terrified. Then he runs away, like holding one arm since it got jacked up. Like, it's just really good. But the fact that it's like very has emotions, makes me question the fact that it might be like a corrupted version of a human. Or a survivor, whatever you want to call him, a Bob. And here it is, folks, the moment that made us all shit our pants, where we confirmed that this was actually Ark 2. And it is the very, very first time you see an implant in this entire trailer. I rewatched it so many times, trying to look at every single person's wrist, and you don't really notice it ever. So the thing is, though, the main characters that you both see have their wrists covered up majority of the time, and you just don't really see it. But the girl's reaction and her voice makes it seem as it's like a brand new thing, but also familiar when they get into it. And like the dad, Vin Diesel, calls it like an old friend later. So I'm not quite sure what to make of that. So I don't know what you guys are thinking. Let me know in the comments down below. Now, there are really kind of two major just missable details in this one. When you first look at this pillar, you just kind of see Ark stuff, whatever. But if you really kind of pay attention to it and you're familiar with a lot of the Explorer notes, this is really the story of the island. You get Helena with her parasaur and her bow and stuff like that. And then you also have Nerva, who's really known for being on his Rex as well. And then, the lady, the third lady is kind of... escaping my mind. What is her name? Oh my goodness. She was known for the trike on the island, and you also see that as well. And then you see HLNA as the actual like floating robot Genesis lady. And it's just, if you really kind of pay attention to the smaller details, you notice that it is the story of Ark 1. As well as now you see these hands coming down from the bottom. I don't know what to really make of that, and kind of transitioning from that to the pillar to the right of it, you see this hand imagery again, and you see a small HLNA floating there too with all these stars, and it looks like they're being pulled into a black hole. If you look at all the trajectory and the angles of the hands, and especially like the stars that they're getting pulled into either a portal or a black hole, which is just really interesting. It's almost similar to the one that's actually above the obelisk. Sorry, wow, brain fart there. The obelisk, and I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if it's trying to say like it's a story, right? These are stories being told out like ancient hieroglyphics, right? So they're kind of like being pulled through the portal maybe to be brought to the Ark. If you guys aren't really familiar with the story, right, there's a whole bunch of different people from different time frames that all interact with each other on the Ark as well. And that's something else that's going to be alluded to in just a couple minutes as well. So this is the part that really blows my mind the absolute most, because there's some really fascinating details and information in here. First off, I'm just going to talk about the picture. He looks like he's wearing actually like more clothes than armor or anything like you've been seeing him wear anything before this point, as well as it says, you know, whatever, a specimen ID. Before this, it says initiating bioscan, then it pulls up his stats, right? Then you get one of the big reveals of the character's name, that's DaCosta Santiago. And then below that, there's a lot of information. I had to go to different angles and different points to kind of freeze frame it. But I'll read all the real important information to you guys so you're going to know. So starting off at the top, it says genetic sequence, complete, engram imprinting, incomplete, and then it says cloning access, and then it goes restricted, which is really interesting. So I don't know if that's going to be a hint. Maybe they're not going to do the same kind of respawn system, or maybe this is their way of explaining the respawn system, like you're actually just a clone every time you die or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but I thought that was really interesting. Other than that, it says ancestry. Oh, sorry. First off, it says the stats in the bottom left-hand corner, his height, blood type, different stuff like that. Nothing too interesting. Then on the right-hand side, right next to that is the real big interesting part. So his ancestry is indigenous. So I'm kind of almost taking that as like he was maybe just like born on here. I don't know, because there's some other things that make me kind of question that. But so his ancestry is indigenous. His temporal region is 24th century AD. So I guess when his mind was originally pulled from. So, you know, you're going to get these other characters, like I said. So maybe this is just his, like, you know, the time that his mind was like uploaded to the Ark or something similar to that. Next is going to his regional origin, which is Sao Paulo municipality, which I'm not exactly sure where that is. Underneath that is aptitude, which is just based. Oh, sorry. Underneath that is going to be citizen, and it says Terra Federation, which is, I think, the most interesting piece of information almost in this entire thing. So if there is citizens or anything like that, are you going to get more of this like extinction story where there was like citizenship, not citizenships, but like cities and different stuff like that? And if it's a Terra, you know, whatever, Terra Federation, is this going to be like an Earth Federation? Are we going to get almost like different creatures and species, which could then explain not these monsters or creatures that you were fighting earlier? They may not actually be corrupted humans. They may just be a completely different species that has been pulled into the same arc cycle. I think that's really what that's alluding to, which I think is huge, that they're going to kind of expand out, since this has always been more than just dinosaurs and going back in time and fighting. There's always been this underlying like mystery and technology. So I don't think aliens or bringing just other species is how they're probably going to phrase it from around the, you know, galaxy is going to be anything too different or far stretched from there. And then after that, it just says aptitude. He's good at engineering, strategy, creativity, and then fluency, Portuguese, Spanish, and English. So he has a little bit of knowledge in what he does. After that, it has just says Genesis system. So again, this is going to be part of the Genesis simulation or something like that. I'm sure Genesis 2 will give us a lot more information about that leading up into Arc 2. And then he kind of goes into the computer and clicks around on some stuff, and it says purge system, security override, and then it has a few little options which I found really interesting. It's going to show his historical data, his simulation data, performance records, genomic library, and engram library. So I don't know if maybe this is kind of like I think it's going to be kind of meta, like how we customize the arcs is like how these can maybe be customized as well. So maybe you can choose the, you know, genomic library is like what kind of creatures or plants and stuff like that is going to be available on the arc, and engram library is what people are able to learn or what kind of resources. So I think it's kind of almost like a little meta jab at that, which I think is really
Lights out, old friend.
So let me know what you guys are thinking. You guys think this is going to be a more primitive sequel where you're not going to have the same kind of more advanced stuff like before? Do you guys think this is going to be more just like a pure story game with maybe like a side thing with servers? I would love to know everything you guys are thinking down in the comments below, or also join my Discord to let me know what you're thinking over there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends. It's the best way to help support the channel. And I will see you guys tomorrow on the 12 Days of Archimus. Take it easy. Bye.